Joe Ducard here, and I want to share with you 10 lessons that I learned last year about women, about life, about myself, that wound up making me a more intelligent man. And I want to share these with you so that you can avoid the mistakes that I have and to have the best year that you can going forward. So before we jump into these 10 lessons, real quickly, I want to tell you how I came up with them. So every time a new year comes around, what I do is reflect on the year prior. And I talked about how to do this in a previous video. Every single year, I'll take some time and write out all the lessons that I learned the year before, things that were light bulb moments, things that caused me to reflect and change the way that I do things the year going forward. So I have a whole bunch of lessons that I had, but I picked the 10 best ones that I thought would be most relevant to you to share with you here in this video. So the first lesson that I learned a few times last year was that cold approach is great again. Me and my friends had a funny phrase we were using last year that I had came up with, and I said, let's make cold approach great again. You know, going out and meeting women in real life, not on apps, not online, none of that stuff. Going out, shaking hands, introducing yourself, and meeting people in real life. One thing I noticed personally from my experience last year, about halfway through, was that the dating apps kind of slowed down a bit for me. I also noticed too that even things like messaging girls on Instagram and whatnot definitely weren't getting the same responses that it used to. And it makes sense. You know, a lot of people, a lot of guys are getting on these platforms and messaging women. A lot of people are getting on these platforms and trying to show off and things like that. You know, back in the day when Instagram stories first came out, there would be about 5 stories on the top of your feed. But now everyone and their mother, including my mother, probably, puts an Instagram story out there. So now your content is getting buried behind so many other people. So trying to show off on Instagram definitely doesn't work the same way that it used to. And also with the dating apps, a lot of people are flocking to these apps. Not many people want to do the hard yards of going out in person and doing these cold approaches. So I found out that going in person and shaking a girl's hand and getting to know her and meeting her, I was able to use all my assets in one place. That's what I teach. That's what I think is the best way of meeting women. You know, whether you want to do meetups, bars, lounges, social events, you know, anything that you want to do where people are in person, it's the best way, in my opinion, to meet new people. The second lesson that I learned last year is text messaging is a waste of time. I can't tell you how many guys ask me for texting advice, especially over the years. And one thing I always say is, what's the point of the text messaging? Why do you want to do it? Because you want to get her in person. The whole thing is to get in person, build some connection, have some fun. That's the whole thing of it. What I noticed was that a lot of these text conversations were going really long, but not actually going anywhere. People wind up ghosting, or I wasn't actually meeting up with the girl. And I'm building that alternate reality, like I've mentioned before. And we're on this, you know, back in the day, we used to call it the 20-minute set to nowhere, right? At least that was in person. Now it's like the year-long text message exchange to nowhere. So I don't really get off much on sending things over text message. It doesn't really do it for me. I'm definitely an in-person kind of guy. So sending these long texts and trying to, you know, the inbox is crowded for a girl. You know, there's a lot of people messaging and going back and forth trying to get time. Like I said in my last point, being in person, you're really going to stand out. So just being in the text message and trying to get all these things done. Hey, look, if you have to text message and you have to set up a date, that's fine. But get to the point, make it happen. Don't build this alternate reality. Don't become pen pals, and don't waste your time doing all that. The third lesson I learned last year was a question I like to ask myself whenever I'm in a pinch. And the question is, what is my ideal scenario, okay? Or what's my ideal outcome? When I'm in a situation, I kind of don't know what I want, or, you know, I'm maybe worried about what someone else is thinking about what they want, this and that. I go back and say, look, what do I really want out of the situation? What would be my ideal scenario that I can get out of this? And whatever that is, then I take the action to make that a reality. A great example of this is with dating, right? You know, a lot of times guys will get a girl's number or meet a girl and they'll think, okay, what does she want? You know, how should I play this? What type of thing? And they read so much into the girl and say, okay, you know, she seems like this type of girl. Maybe she wants this, maybe she wants that. But forget that. Think about, what is your ideal scenario? What do you want to do with this girl? What do you see with this girl? What would be your ideal scenario? What type of date do you want to go on? You know, what type of conversation do you want to have? Think about yourself. Women respect a guy who has confidence and who leads. Now, don't be completely oblivious to what she has going on. You know, be open-minded and be able to adapt when the situation calls for it. But know what you want and proceed according to that plan. You know, because a lot of guys mess things up where they don't do what they actually want. They try to respond too much to the girl and then wind up losing things. Another great lesson that I learned last year was that anything is better than doing the best thing. Okay, so a great example of this is in the mornings I'll write out a to-do list, and sometimes I'll curate a really long to-do list with a whole bunch of things on it. And what do I usually do? I'll sit there and I'll look at the list, and I'll usually get overwhelmed, but I'll look at the list and I'll like, oh man, you know, I could do this, I could do that, or I could do this one later, I could do this one then, and I wind up spending a lot of time deliberating over what I should do, when the best thing you could do is just to do anything off of that list. Let's say one of the things on your list is to clean up your apartment, but you know, you have some work stuff to do too, and you're like, well, maybe the work stuff's more important. Well, which one of the work stuff should I do? Well, this one, and you start analyzing, you wind up not getting anything done. While you're thinking, while you're analyzing, why don't you get up and clean the house and think about it? And what happens is when you take that action, you start to build momentum and get a lot of things done. So you don't have to do the best thing, you have to do anything, right? It could be Friday night. Well, I want to go out, but I want to have this wingman with me. I want to wear this outfit. I want to do this many approaches. I want to work on this thing. I want to do this part of my game and this. Forget it. Just do anything. Let's get out of the house. Okay, how about that? Let's go to this bar, whatever. We got some friends. Let's go, and maybe I'll start some conversations with some people. The point is to get some momentum going instead of trying to always make the right and the perfect decision. Just make a decision. You know, as well with working out, right? Oh, I want to. I'm not going to work out yet because I don't have the perfect workout routine, or I didn't eat perfect today, or this or that. Dude, it doesn't need to be the absolute perfect routine. It just needs to be something that you do, right? Get out there and get into the gym and get the momentum going. It's always be better than doing nothing. The fifth lesson that I learned last year is something called fish love, and it's from a video that I saw on YouTube. And the way the guy explained it was that he talked to a guy and said, why do you eat fish, right? And the guy said, because I love fish. And he goes, well, if you love fish, then why do you take it and kill it, bring it out of the water, boil it, and eat it? He said, you don't love the fish itself, you love how the fish makes you feel. And the point of this was that if you really love something and you have love for it, you're going to let it be what it is. You're not going to look at it for what can it give me. Okay, a lot of times we look at things, especially dating, and especially when looking at women and looking at partners, we think, what can this person give me? What can this person do for me? And we're looking at them through a lens that's so closely related to us that we're blind to finding out actually who this person is. How can I accept them? How can I support them? You know, how can I give them love just for who they are, the way they are? And we miss that step of getting to know someone truly for who they are because we're already thinking, well, I want somebody who's like this. I want somebody who's like that. And she better not be like this. And she better not be like that. And then we're so blocked just looking for those things that we want out of that person that we don't get to see who that person is for who they are. So I think that's super important for building a connection with anybody, is to see who they are and love them for who they are, help them, give them love, rather than for what they can give you. The sixth lesson that I learned is that you have to define what is cool for you. And this is a really interesting thing that I've been thinking about a lot. You know, you look at some people and, you know, what do they post when they post online? They're posting how they're traveling, or they went to a nice restaurant, you know, or something new that they bought, or someone's getting married, or someone's having kids, right? They're always posting a lot of the same things. And all that stuff can be great, and if they think that's great, that's fine. But you have to define what is cool to you. You have to define what's important to you. For me personally, I'm at a point in my life where I don't want to travel that much. I've traveled and taught a lot, and I'd rather stick around and get into more of a routine right now at this point in my life than do a ton of traveling. I also like to eat clean and cook my own food, so I don't like eating out. You know, I don't see myself getting married or forcing myself to have kids or buy a house or spend money on a lot of stuff that I don't really want to right now. And for me, I think it's cool to make money, save it, invest it, to eat clean, you know, to have a routine and do the stuff that makes me happy and the stuff that I think is cool and that I think is awesome. And the reason I bring this up is because I don't want you to be influenced so much by other people and what everyone else in society thinks is cool. And it's hard not to, right? I mean, everybody's posting these things and trying to show off and one up each other and this and that. Stay in your own lane, do what makes you happy at the core, and do what you think is cool and define that for yourself. The seventh lesson that I learned last year is called the beginner's advantage, okay? And this is something that I've talked about a little bit in previous videos. And the point is that if you're a beginner, you actually have an advantage. And by that, I mean you have a long way to go. Let's look at two different scenarios, okay? Let's say that, well, probably the easiest example of this is think of a retired basketball player, right? Or a sports player, anything, football, whatever it may be. Think of an athlete towards the end of their career. They would do anything to start over again, learn it all over, and have a whole fresh start in their career because they know that that journey was the most important and the funnest part of the whole thing. The journey really is the destination. I know you've heard that before, but it is so true. You know, the journey and everything that goes along with it is the fun part. So starting at the beginning is the awesome thing about that, okay? So like I said, when I started dance class last year, I talked to a friend of mine and I was like, yeah, dance class is awesome. You should start. And I know a few friends are like, nah, I don't want to do that because I suck. And that's the whole point of going to the class. That's the whole point of learning this and doing this because this is a new journey. A lot of times if you look into celebrities and you see like celebrities' personal lives, what are they doing? Learning a new language, learning an instrument, starting like some independent film project or something. They're starting at the beginning of new things because they like discovering new things. They like being a beginner because a beginner is an advantage. And the advantage is in the happiness that you gain from having so much new to do and having a whole journey ahead of you. So if you're starting on things, even if it's meeting women or whatnot, don't look at it as like, oh, I have so far to go till I get there. Because dude, I've got there. And yeah, it's great. The greatest part is that I can help teach you guys. But you know, at the end of the day, the funnest part was me learning this stuff, man, and going out with my friends and failing. And I was so excited to read stuff and take notes and go out and learn more. And man, I was so excited and really consumed my life in a good way back when I was in my 20s. And, you know, looking back at it now, that was awesome to just be so excited to wake up and have something I was so passionate about. So be excited that you're a beginner because it's an advantage. The 8th lesson that I learned over the last year was that daily disciplines are what matter, okay? You know, very often we look at the big goal. You know, I want to be super rich. I want to have a lot of high quality women in my life, lots of friends. I want to live here and travel here and do this and all this stuff. We look at all these big pictures, but the thing is, what gets you to those big pictures? You know, being in really good shape is another great example. What gets you to those big picture goals? It's the daily disciplines, okay? If you want to get in great shape, you can't just think, okay, I want to get in great shape. How am I going to get there really quick? Well, how are you going to do it? You have to get up in the morning and work out. You're going to have to eat a healthy meal, right? You're going to have to lift weights. You're going to have to lift weights consistently. You have to eat a lot of healthy meals. You're going to have to say no a lot of times to eating out and eating bad food. You know, it's going to be someone's birthday or some celebration or a holiday or something every other week. And you're going to have to say no to those things because you're going to have to sacrifice and use those disciplines every day to get better, okay? A buddy of mine recently told me that 80% of people want to write a book and they would love to write a book. But very little people do. And I actually wrote a book. And I started writing several books, but I wanted to finish mine and get it out. So what did I have to do? I said, in order for me to finish and publish this book, I'm going to write for an hour every morning until it's done. And that's what I did. And over the next few months, I took that book that I started years ago, and over the next few months, I wrote for an hour every morning till I refined it. I figured out how to do it, and I published the book. I always say the hardest part about publishing a book is hitting the publish button because that's the hardest thing is to actually get it done and put it out there. But what it was the daily disciplines of doing it over and over again. So think about the things that you want and how you can break it down into something that you can do every day to get what you want. The 9th lesson that I learned last year was to embrace you. Embrace who you are, okay? I used to do this a lot when I was younger. Then I started discovering myself a bunch and coming up with new things and finding out who I was, and being open-minded and trying new things is really important. But you have to come to a point where you start to see the things that are you, the things that make you you. You know, I used to be embarrassed, actually, that I was from New Jersey and I was an Italian guy. That's probably because the Jersey Shore TV show was popular back then. But, you know, I look at some Italian stereotypes that I do have. You know, I can cook. I talk with my hands. I'm very touchy. I'm very lovey, and I have a good sense of humor. And I like having people around. I'm a very family-oriented person, and those are things that I've learned to say are awesome. You know, those are things that I love about myself, and I really embrace that are me. And I know those things make me who I am, and I like to embrace, like I said, those things. So over the holidays, I spent 3 weeks at home, and rather than me, you know, worrying about if people were doing self-development stuff or if they understood things about my business or whatever, I hung with my family. I cooked food. We told jokes. We had a great time. And I just embraced, you know, and loved my family and myself for who I was because, you know, family is a good example. They love you for who you are. You don't need to be something super incredible. Maybe some people, the parents have some crazy expectations. But at the end of the day, they love you for who you are because of who you are. You know, you don't have to have abs. You don't have to have a zillion dollars. You don't have to, you know, have all these other things. You might need to have a girlfriend or they'll bother you for that. But you just have to be you. And I learned over the last year to embrace what I was, embrace what makes me happy, embrace the qualities about myself that I like, and really accept those things. And a good exercise that you could do is write down a list of things about yourself that you really like and you think is really awesome. You know, it's a great exercise to do, to start to embrace and look at those qualities that you have, develop them, use them more, and just love who you are, man. And the 10th lesson that I learned last year, which I've learned many times, and I keep learning this over and over again, is to put yourself out there, okay? You could be the best guy in the world. You could be the greatest man you could be. But if you don't put yourself out there, you're not going to make friends. You're not going to meet women. You're not going to get the connections you want. You're not going to have a successful business. You're not going to have any of those things that you want if you don't put yourself out there. And the reason why we don't put ourselves out there is usually because of rejection, right? We're afraid that if we put ourselves out there, we're going to be too fragile and someone's going to say no or this and that. Hey, man, you have to do it. Dude, I put up these YouTube videos now been about a year and a half. And I try my best to put these things out. You know, it takes me a while to do them, it takes me a while to edit, and I put a lot of effort in to give value to you guys. You know, one of my main goals this year was to give as much value as I can. And even when I do, every now and then, I get stupid comments, right? And people say that I suck, or I'm this, or I'm that, or he doesn't know what he's talking about, whatever, you know? But you're going to get those things. That's okay. And I believe success is reserved for the people who can overcome those things. I was actually just talking to a friend of mine about that recently. I said that success isn't for everybody because most people, it weeds people out. And the thing that weeds people out is getting those rejections and getting those setbacks and getting the negative feedback, right? And if you can go through that and say, you know what, I believe in my message and I believe in me enough that I'm not going to let those things bother me, then you'll be successful. And that's why success is reserved for those people who continue to put themselves out there. If you really didn't believe in yourself and you really didn't have the courage and this and that, then you won't be successful, right? And I want to, the reason I record this stuff and give you this information is because I want to encourage you to have faith in yourself. I want to give you the tools to make yourself successful, and I want you to live that life that you've always wanted and the life that you deserve. So I want you to take these 10 lessons. They've really enriched and helped my life, and I hope they help and enrich your life as well. And have a great year going forward. I'll have the next video for you ready right over here. Don't forget to subscribe and have a great year.